It was really kind of horrific, in the early years when I was very young. And because it is very hard to love the Lord the way that I do, and to go into a church and hear someone call you an abomination. So that was the difficulty, not my relationship with God, but my relationship with the church and church family.
And was that the same in relationship to your biological family?
It was difficult for them. I have two brothers. I'm the only girl, so it was very, very difficult for them. They're old school, old traditional church folk, and so ingrained in them, was this belief, that it was more than a sin; it was an abomination. So it was very, very difficult for them, and it took them some time to really grasp it. They had this idea of what I should be like and how I should show up in the world. And I just didn't show up that way. And I didn't from the very beginning. And so they knew it when I was really young, and they did everything they could to make a difference. They did everything they could to kind of turn my life around. They thought it was a phase. They thought I had been influenced. They thought so many things, and they just went on this crusade, so to speak, to really change me. And I am who I am unapologetically. It's difficult when the people that you love and that you grow up with and in a loving home, and suddenly there's this change of perspective, this change of attitude and change of behavior toward you. It's very difficult.
Yes.
But I love them both deeply.
Now, you bring a very special piece to your ministry that also I think is prevalent and important, and that is the area around addiction. And
yes,
I'd love for you to share with our people a bit of that journey for you, when you got sober. And I mean, I don't, we don't, the whole story could be a movie, I'm sure, if it's
I'm telling you, that's just woo. I started out right out of high school. And I really started out simply having a good time, simply partying. I really did. I did not use because of family issues. I did not use because of the community rejecting me. I didn't use because of that. I simply started out having a good time, partying from high school, partying with friends, partying with family. And I'm telling you, I looked up 22 years later and it's like, what happened? What in the world is going on? What has happened? Getting sober was a journey in itself because it took me some time. My head, my heart, my consciousness could not grasp addiction. And I could not believe that I could not stop when I wanted to stop. And so that whole piece of acceptance, it took me quite some time, but I tell you what made a tremendous difference for me in my recovery is that I got to a program that helped me understand how the brain works, how the body works, and how addiction affects me emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually. Suddenly I recognized it was not because of willpower. It was not a moral dilemma. It was not lack of desire for a new way of life. It was none of that. I had to learn how to treat the addiction. I had to learn how to live. And then all of the stigma, all of the language, all of the movie and theater and words around addiction. And anytime you wanted to discredit someone, all you had to say is that they were an addict. And so for me today, it is very, very different. For me today, I came to an understanding, to a belief that this was simply a soul's unfoldment and nothing more. And that everything that I went through, I had to go through to be who I am today.
Tell us about your work and a little bit about how people can learn more of how to get support.
I am the founder of the Light of Truth Center, and that is a behavioral health system for women recovering from drugs and alcohol in Baltimore, Maryland. And I started this work as it I went to pick up one of my sponsees from a recovery house, and I was overwhelmed in the instant. I walked in and it was filthy. It looked like someplace where you use drugs rather than a place where you recover from drugs. And so even now in speaking about it, it still wells up in me. I wept. I wept. It took me to a place, the only way I can describe it is a spiritual experience. It was the beginning of the Light of Truth Center, because something inside of me said, we can do better than this. There has to be a better way, and we can provide safe and clean and supportive, loving housing that's conducive to recovery. And so from that day to this very instant, I'm on fire for recovery, for supporting women, for supporting the recovery community. We just don't provide housing. We have a full umbrella of services so that we serve the whole woman, not just the appearance of addiction, but the whole woman. And not only that, we support the recovery community. We are trainers. We train people in recovery to support other people in recovery coaches. So we are fully vested. Boots on the ground, sleeves rolled up, hand to hand, heart to heart, shoulder to shoulder, to make a difference, to be the light, to bring the light.
What do you think the next evolution, or who are we being called to be?
Our calling right now is to educate ourselves, to empower ourselves, to work within mainstream, and to come to understand who we truly are. Because you see, at this point in my life, labels are very difficult for me. Very difficult for me, because I know who I am. You see, there was a time when I didn't know who I am, but I know who I am now. I am divine. I am heir to the kingdom. I am stardust walking. If you're going to identify me, please rightly identify me.